everyone, this is George from Strezov Sampling, and I'm excited to show you the first walkthrough of Balkan Ethnic Orchestra. This has been a very special project for us because we spent really like a whole year doing that and perfecting this and recording all sorts of typical instruments for the Balkans, for Bulgaria, for our own country, and of course recording so much instruments that's part of your national heritage has its impact, so we had to be really careful and spend a lot of time to make things as close to the original as possible. So again, forgive my excitement. This has been really a very special project for us, and I really can't wait to show you guys more about it. So Balkan Ethnic Orchestra, as you can see here on the library tab, this library is going to be powered by Kontakt, so you can use it with the free Kontakt player, and it's also NKS encoded as well, so that's really special thing for us as well. Balkan Ethnic Orchestra has 5 main categories. You have the band, choir, ethnic instruments, pads and percussion. The band features a bunch of instruments which are mainly covering the sound of the typical brass bands played in Bulgaria and Serbia, for instance, Goran Bregovic. You have also a guitar, accordion and a double bass. The choir, and this is something that I really want to point out because we've got quite a lot of questions online. So this is a completely new sample material. This is something that we recorded with 4 wonderful singers, and it's different than the sample content we have in Rhodope. However, which is very important, is that both content match in both syllables and legato, so you can use the quartet from the Balkan Ethnic Orchestra to supplement your Rhodope 2 tracks if you want, for a more detailed and sound because of the less singers, so you have more definition. The ethnic instruments, these are mostly solo instruments with a few exceptions. These are parts of our national heritage, they're again really special, especially I would love to use them in a more fantasy and medieval setting. The pads, and the percussion, they have only one patch, but within it you have the option to browse through different presets in a built-in browser. So again, we'll get to there. There's also like tons of interesting content that can be used. Alright, so let's start with the band. So the band, almost all of the instruments within it are made with the same principle. So the gypsy trombone, the second gypsy trombone, the trumpet, the tuba, the flugelhorn and euphonium, they're all built with the same principle in mind. So let me show you. I have loaded up the first gypsy trombone, as you can see. It has 2 microphone positions, the close and the whole. Everything was recorded in the Sofia Session Studio. You have the option to purge either the microphones if you want to decrease your RAM usage, to select different outputs if you want to solo and to mute each of the microphones to audition them. Then you have the option to turn the legato and overlap options on and off, to turn off the releases and reverb. Also, you can pan the close mic. In this case we don't have true legato, so it's disabled. You can't use it. So let's play a bit with this instrument. So the trombone has 3 dynamic layers that are controlled by mod wheel. You can see I'm controlling this on my keyboard. And here's without the reverb. So it can also be used for slightly more jazzy style if you want, with the sustains, again controlled by mod wheel. So at the bottom you can see that there's a key switch which changes between sustain, you can see here in the info bar, sustain to staccato. Now staccato adds this green segment on the keyboard, which is basically this. At the bottom we have the same content, and then the same thing applied on top, but this is played with a slight grace note at the beginning. So then by using both keyboards, you can play stuff like you can hear this with just the close mic, so you can get an idea of how it sounds in a more gypsy-like style. Okay, now I have loaded all the instruments into a single contact instance, so I'm going to play through them just so that you can hear how it sounds like. I'll start with the double bass. I've increased the close mic just a bit because I would like a more close-up sound to the bass. So you have the playable range at the bottom, right here. Then you have this, which is basically a slap note. And at the top you have just simple slides, glissandi up and down, so triggered by velocity. So if it's low, then it's a fall, and then if I press slightly, with more power and force. Here's how it sounds, just the close mic. And here's how it sounds the whole mic, sorry. Then we have the accordion, which again has two key switches which trigger between staccato and sustain. Again, I'll remove the reverb, which is triggered by default. At the bottom you have the left hand of the accordion. It's really simple. It's actually a very old accordion. Again, if you press harder, then you have again this same grace note. It's a very simple instrument, and again it is a very old and rusty accordion. It was really funny capturing that, because it's not perfect, but it sounds very authentic, I would say. to this type of music. The gypsy euphonium is again, it's part of the brass instruments. It's made the same way as the trombone that I've showed you earlier. So let me just play it through a bit. And again, without reverb, if we change to the staccato. So it can be also used in more orchestral context as well. The flugelhorn, there we go, flugelhorn, also sustains and staccatos. Now here we have something special that I'll show you in a bit. Let me show you just first the sustains. Again, without the reverb, the washed up reverb. Then at the bottom you have these playable, performances. And then if I change this key switch, I still have the staccatos. Then we have the gypsy guitar, again a very cool patch. I'll turn off the reverb. At the bass you have the bass notes of the guitar. And then you have the three major type of chords, and by major I mean the most used chords in this type of music, which is major, minor and diminished. again, made very playable so that you can just hop right into writing music with it, not just tweak controls and do stuff like this. Again, the gypsy trombone, so that you can hear it out in context without turn off the reverb. Compared to the second one, I'll just do this, the sustains. And here is the second trombone, which is more bitey in terms of sound. Same thing. Sorry, reverb. So this trombone is completely different than the other one. Other one is more mellow, while this is more kind of aggressive and in your face. So again, useful in other genres. So for instance, this could be used in, I would say, Latin music as well. So I've already used it on a couple of more different genres than Balkan music. Now the trumpet legato, as you can see, there's only one playable range. So you have the option to turn the legato intervals, which is the true legato intervals, on and off. It's a monophonic instrument, and it's very special. So check it out. I'll just disable the reverb. And with different dynamic layers as well. And then we have just your ordinary gypsy trumpet, again based with the same principle as the trombones and the flugelhorn euphonium. So you have this the sustains at first. You have some performances as well. And then if we change, And finally the tuba, again same principle. And your typical gypsy tuba. And lots of reverb. The choir quartet has three main patches, which is the A legato, the E legato, and the seal builder patch. I'll start with the legatos because they're very straightforward. So first off, it's the quartet legato. You have a couple of dynamic layers controlled by mod wheel. And you have a special way of singing, which is like with a shaking sound. The patches have polyphonic legato. Which can be turned off by clicking on the overlap button. You can also turn off the legato if you want. Turn off the releases and reverb. The air legato is more typical, the more typical type of singing. I'll just disable the reverb. And finally, you have the real power horse, which is the seal builder. It's the seal build engine was something that we introduced first with Wotan. This is a really clever tool that allows you to write words. To when you click on them, you have the option to tweak the attack, the offset of the sample, the volume of it. Also, you can just right-click once, right here in the middle on this dot, like the circle, and it will connect the words according to this rhythm right here. So for instance, you can change the word die to be like half note and then decrease the volume. And you can change the last one to be staccato. So basically you have countless options, you know, to tweak this, to assign each word to a specific key switch that you can find at the bottom. The yellow key switch is repeat the last syllable, so you can you don't need to type in, for instance, die, 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 die a couple of times in order to repeat it. You can just press on this one. Moreover, you have the option to save and load, to quickly insert a syllable somewhere, you know, at the middle of a phrase or something, or just to delete it if you want. You also have the option to save your you know, words as presets. If you create something that's really cool, then you can insert it right here. You can also, which is really cool, what you can do is click twice on the circle, and it changes the icon to morph mode. This is the so-called morph mode, which allows you to crossfade between the two lyrics. Check this out. I'll change this to die. Moreover, the syllable builder also has a bunch of other really cool features, like for instance the legato mode. This is the so-called agile legato. So basically what you need to do is click on, for instance, die, choose the legato speed. I would just choose the medium, which is like default, and then press the sustain pedal. What the sustain pedal does is kills off the offset of the syllable. So for instance, if I just play without pressing the sustain pedal, and now if I press it, you can hear that the beginning consonant is being cut off. So then you can play something like, so it's a really useful feature. So you can play around with the syllable. You can use it in a very simple way. You can just write off a bunch of syllables, and then and it automatically changes to the next one. But you can also do a lot of advanced stuff, which is explained either in our menu, or if you go right here, you have a built-in help for the syllable builder engine, which is really powerful, and has lots of deep features that are you know, useful, very useful, as soon as you get to know them, get to use them more. So again, you have two mic positions. When you go to the settings, you can output all of those mic positions to a different mixer inside your DAW. You also have the option to again include the agile legato. This is the legato that I've showed you just now. You have the option to remove the overlapping notes and to remove the release samples, and also click on the auto reset to last key switch. This, when you click this, every time you start playing, it will start from either a previous key switch that you've clicked or from the beginning, which means that if, for instance, you write your lyrics and then play them inside like Cubase or whatever your DAW is, every time you play, it will start either from the beginning or from the last key switch that's used, which is really useful if you want to write specific lyrics which are to be part of, like, say, a chorus or something like that, and you want them to be the same, exactly the same every time you play it. And lastly, the mod wheel only, when you click this, it changes the 3 dynamic layers. So basically we have 2 dynamic layers, and then at the end we have this shaking type of sound with lots of vibrato. So if we click on this, it won't be triggered anymore by the mod wheel. It will be now triggered by CC2, which is the breath controller. So right now, if I'm playing, you can see that the library actually has just 2 dynamic layers. So this is in case you don't want this shaking sound to appear in your music. You can click on this and it will change the way you perform with the instrument. Alright, so now let's start with the ethnic instruments. I'll try to quickly show them one by one. So let's start with the Bulgarian high duduk. Then you have the low duduk. So you have 2 dynamic layers. One is with lots of powerful attack, and the other one is very simple. Then you have, this is like the typical Armenian duduk. You have alto, bass, and tenor. These are different instruments. All of them, each one of them sounds really unique in their own way. So here we have the alto duduk. The bass duduk is my personal favorite. At the bottom you have some phrases as well, so we can just play through them. No, sorry. And then at the top you have the playable range. Again, you have 2 dynamic layers. One is with lots of vibrato, and the other one is really soft. And if you turn off the legato, you can also play some, sorry, with soft chords. Then we have the tenor duduk, which is the most popular duduk that's been featured in lots of films. And then again you have some phrases at the bottom. Then the next one is the Gaduka ensemble, legato and grooves. Gaduka, this is a typical Bulgarian instrument. It's from the violin family. So I would say it's similar in the way you play on it, similar to like erhu or this type of an instrument. So at the top you have the playable range. Then you have at the bottom you have these rhythmic patches. You have some information every time you play, so the yellow key switches change the ID of the groove. So we have 3 IDs. This is triplets. And then at the bottom you have like this type of a glissando, like with a portamento sustain. Then you have the shorts again for the ensemble. Again, multiple dynamic layers. And you have some effects as well. Again, the same thing can be applied to the solo legato. And you have slightly more ornamented sustains. So there's again the that's like just a normal ornamented sustain with lots of movement inside. And again you have the solo shorts. Then you have the guido, which is your typical bagpipe. Here's how it sounds like. So usually bagpipers, they start with this riff, which later goes into this drone, which can be found right here. So Traditionally, bagpipes are either in E or D, but we've extended the ranges also of the drone notes. Then we have the clarinet. Again, a very playful instrument with lots of ornaments within. Same thing can be applied to the romantic violin. Next, we have the gypsy violin, which is, again, you can see it's a very different style of playing than the violin, so it's a very particular in sound. The phrases are at the bottom. And then at the top you have two dynamic layers. Again, this is a very kind of experimental instrument, but it sounds really cool when in the mix, and you can make very powerful nuances from it, like as if it's like a soloist doing some weird sounds for you, especially for fantasy music and for stuff that's more ethnic in nature. Then you have the gypsy voice, which is a small instrument with some loops. Just one dynamic layer. Just like a small addition to the overall palette of instruments. Next one is the kaval. This is typical woodwind instrument. It sounds really cool. So you have two types of sustains. One is with a soft velocity, and one with a harder velocity. As you can hear, it's more ornamented. Just some phrases that you can use. The same thing can be used with the second kaval, which is a slightly different instrument. Again, the same thing with this velocity can be applied to this kaval as well. Next on the list is the Macedonian kemane. Then you can change it to staccato. Then we have the tambura chords. The tambura is a strummed instrument from Bulgaria, and this is a patch similar to our distort library. So at the bottom you have staccato, like shorts, and at the top you have like sustains. Everything is played in fifths, but you can use, both registers to create like rhythms. So really simple to use. If you want to do like melodies and stuff, then you can use the normal patch. And then at the bottom you have, again, key switches. And staccato. Okay, and last but not least, the zurna, one of the instruments that I don't like very much personally, but here's how it sounds like. These are the normal playable range of the instrument. At the top you have some notes which are overblown, which is basically one octave higher than this. Then you have the again two dynamic layers, which are switchable with the mod wheel. Now this instrument doesn't have much dynamic differences, but the main difference is the vibrato. So you can again some playable phrases at the bottom, and then you can change between the different articulations. So again, these are slightly experimental again. So this is the fluttered sound, Flatterzunge, the flutter. And staccato. Now the pads. Pads are very simple instrument, basically divided into two types of sounds, the futuristic sounds and the fantasy sounds. So basically you load one of these up and just play. And last but not least, the percussion. So the percussion uses our extreme engine, which we use with Thunder Extreme, with also Tupan's Extreme. So you can see that you have 12 zones, which are mapped on the keyboard. Over here, you can see all of them in a different color. And then you have the option to adjust each of the zones and play through them. By default, the instrument loads up the Balkan band snapshot. Then you can choose another one from here. So you can choose, for instance, the Klepało. This is an instrument used in the monasteries. You can use the multiple chants. These are, like cowbells. The solo chants, and you have like solo Tupan and 2 sets of Tarambuka, which is like the Bulgarian name of a derbuka. So you can always just click on initialize and load up all the samples yourself by just clicking on the zone and selecting an instrument from the list over here. So for instance, let me just load up this. Then you can also do stuff like this. For instance, I can load the same sample in the same zone and then adjust the second zone. You also have the option to adjust the transient, to adjust the release, again from the transient, from the sustain. You have the option to, for instance, if I load up something like a hi-hat, tweak the samples, EQ, pan it accordingly, and adjust the zone individual volume. So you can adjust the volume of the zone, or just the mix of the zone. So basically, you can, these two microphones control all of the zones, but in case you want to just use a different sound for the hi-hat, for instance, or for the kick, even better for the kick, you maybe want it to make more close with more low frequencies. So this is really useful feature, so that you can manipulate the sounds how you want. At the top you have the controls, like for instance the round robin reset, which is marked in pink at the bottom. You have the option to save and load all those preset files that you make, initialize, and there's a built-in help that helps you with the playing of the instrument. So let me just play a bit with all those sounds. So let's start with the Balkan band. So yes, this has been what Balkan is all about. This is the percussions, the last patch in this library, which I hope has been really interesting for you and as exciting for you as it has been for us. I'm personally using this a lot, to especially when it comes to doing like an ethnic instrument or adding like this special cover. And what we really try to do with Balkan is to create something that is really inspiring for composers. So I hope you like it. Check out our our demos, the wonderful demos that all the demo writers did, and our other videos, and hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.